I did.
That's right. You made it very well
That's
known.
right. No, dude.
Good for you. I think that was your words exactly. Good for you. Hello. Welcome everyone to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. I am your host, Theo, and on the line, I have the man himself, Mr. Benja. What's up?
What's up, man? How you doing? We are back again, right?
I know, man. Once again, it's on, brother. So I'm ready to get to this, man. Before we get into it, I think today we'll talk a little bit about our thoughts on upcoming shows as well as the latest news, like we normally do. Then we'll kind of circle back around a discussion we talked about the audio revolution, right? All the things, the news that came out a couple of weeks ago around audio, what's happening there, and that's kind of our space with this podcast. And then we'll end it up with the Invincible finale, man. Yeah, rated R, Darth Vader. That's my take.
Spoiler alert.
Rated R, Darth Vader. I love it. So, hey, how was your week?
Week was good, man. Week was good. Every month I like to do my little planning. So I just kind of chilled out, did a little reflection, where things were going. It's kind of hot as hell out here, so it took one of those LA hot spikes. So I had to chill out and just relax and think about life before I had a heat stroke.
Hot streaks, man. What's hot in California, man? You know I live in Florida now, so
right.
Come on, man.
It's not as crazy as Florida, but when it sneaks up on you, and you've got your heater still on from last night, it can mess with you. But nothing like Florida,
Dude, when you waking up at 8 and it's already 80 degrees, come on, that's hot, dude. That's hot. So, I get it, man. Well, welcome to the new process. It's another month, man. Can you believe it's already month 5 in this new year? Time is flying. Let's see. For me, man, this week was interesting. I know, like I mentioned on our weekly hot take video series. So if you guys haven't seen that, go catch us on Facebook Live either Wednesday or Thursdays. We'll give you guys a little preview of what we're going to talk about. But I was in Miami this week and for a day or two, and so I had some business down there. So that was pretty cool. Once again, the pandemic is over. So I saw crowds out there on South Beach. Phenomenal crowds. It was a spring break, man. It was crazy. Let me get my happy hips upstairs, man, away from these crowds. But down in Miami. So I had some traveling done. And then also today is my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Pops.
Hey, happy birthday.
72. So it's definitely been a blessing to have him around. So definitely it's been a good week, man. Can't complain.
Yeah, good. Hey, check the chat right quick before we go on.
Yeah, definitely.
So good to hear, man. That's that's good. I like when we were just talking about the older generation in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I don't. Did your aside from your immediate family, you got a lot of people that are on that?
Oh yeah, man, definitely. Actually, my mother-in-law, she is definitely on it, man. She is hooked on the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and she has a lot of hot takes. And so, as a matter of fact, she is one of our loyal listeners. And I gave her a shout out a couple, was it last week? And she gave me a call. You guys talked about me.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, the reason I mentioned that is just because it seems to have brought up some race discussions and some just general discussions about things. And I wasn't expecting it, but because we're on there like right away, it took like a week after or whatever for other people. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's there were some hashtags that were going around. I mean, you saw that, right? About what was it? Black Cat Matters or what? Black something along those lines, right? It was like going around and people were like, is Marvel woke now? And so I was like, oh Lord, here we go. So it's kind of like we kind of touched on this subject, a couple months back, but this whole woke culture and cancel culture and thinking about wokeness. So now it's come to Marvel, and so now Marvel's like, whatever, we're still gonna do what we're gonna do, right? So we already planned that this is gonna take place. And to be fair, it's already been set in stone that this is happens in the comics, right? Where like, once again, spoiler alert, but when Falcon becomes Captain America, that it's not like this hasn't happened before. There's no precedent for this, but it seems like there's some people, has some issues with it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I did.
That's right. You made it very well
That's
known.
right. No, dude,
Good for you. I think that was your words exactly. Good for you.
I went back and did a whole write up on it, man.
Oh Lord.
I was like, did I miss something? And went back and I sped watched through the whole season again. I was just like jumping back and forth, but I'll drop that later.
Yeah,
Let's,
yeah. I
let's-
listened to a lot of hot takes too. I mean, that's the general sense I got, that people thought it was, they thought that part worked. Other parts may not have worked as well, but they definitely thought the Sam Wilson becoming Captain America worked. I'm with you. I don't think it worked as well, right? Because we still don't know who Sam Wilson is as a person, right? So, or what does he bring that's unique and different besides he's just a regular guy that's just going to try hard and try to make a difference, even though he has no super, secret serum or no special abilities at all.
yeah,
So it's just, I'm just going to try hard and have a good heart. Let's make it happen. So this was Game of Thrones, man. That's the kind of character that get killed in like the first scene. So we'll see, man. I mean, it's, I just wish he had just some cool factor about him, that to beyond just having a good heart, which is great. But to your point, I don't know where he fits into the Marvel universe.
yeah. We'll see. I'm confident that they're not gonna drop the ball too hard. He does have a whole movie lined up for him, so we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, let's get into the news real quick, man. So one of the shows that we haven't been talking about, but really gained some traction really in the last week or so, Invincible, which we'll talk about later in this episode. But the Invincible TV show from Amazon has been renewed for season 2 and 3. So we'll get into Invincible finale and why we think it got renewed. But is that good news for Amazon? Good news for cartoons? Good news for uh ultra violent TV shows?
It sounds like pretty good news to me all around, man. I don't see the downside of this. I'm all for it, and I'm glad people are catching on to it because it was one of those things I wasn't sure if people would catch on to, but no, people are loving it.
Yeah, it was a big swing, man. I mean, I read about it and I thought about it too, but like, think about it. This is a 90s style cartoon TV show, right? I mean, it looks like a night like X-Men, the animated series, right? The animation style. And I think you were kind of sour on that at the beginning, right? Like, what's this animation style?
Yeah, yeah,
And then spoiler alert, but it's ultra violent. So it's kind of like anime style, right? Violence. Maybe in some places even worse. And then it's got this um, high caliber, acting, talent, where, pretty much even minor characters are an actor you probably know. And it's
yeah.
like, this is like huge swing in it's like it could only work or just fail miserably. And it looks like it succeeded even in the midst of stiff competition because everybody was still talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier and Mortal Kombat, and this came out of nowhere, and now everybody's talking about it. So to me, that was interesting.
Yeah, it amazingly, I check the Twitter trends when I can. It never showed up on Twitter trending. Like you know, uh Prime, Invincible on Prime. It really never popped off in the trending circuits. There was always something happening every weekend that would kind of, overshadow it. But, the memes are coming out and it's like, yeah, people caught it. So now that Falcon and Winter Soldier's off, I know a lot of people are binging it. So
Interesting. Yeah, so I wonder how that is. What could have caught it though? It's kind of like we can't rely on Twitter or these, the normal ways we go. Like if there's some interesting new pop culture phenomenon that's bubbling up, where can you catch it? Now, to be fair, I was watching it. I think you were watching it, and I think you were both hinting that this is something that I'm going to continue watching. I say one thing I thought was good for from business strategy. They did release a day early, right? If you kind of stay, Thursday nights or around
Hmm.
Thursday sometime, it would pop up, right? And so, oh, okay, so I could watch this first even before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So maybe that helped build this a momentum. And then of course, everybody's on Amazon anyway. So it helped it to get awareness out there. And then, once people see it and if it's quality, which I think it was, that kept it to have sustainability. So when there was a big pop at the finale, everybody was like watching it. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that real quick? Because from a business strategy, I'm just wondering why did it sustain even though it had stiff competition to get this big pop, and now it's a success all of a sudden. It seems like an overnight success.
You know what? I think it's just one of those things. It was building up, and you know, e- everybody can't be the McDonald's and Burger King. So it's like, what are you going to get after that? And then it's like, well, let's have some Taco Bell or something. And I think they fell into that category of just
That late night hunger snack that you after the club
yeah,
from the
that
hangover.
basically yeah,
I
yeah.
gotta go to Taco Bell.
Uh, Give me two chalupa gorditas, a Mexican pizza. Yeah.
Oh man, late night after the club. That's what Invincible was, right? Oh man, let me watch this.
But you know what's interesting? I think their Thursday night strategy is I don't know how intentional that was because the way Amazon releases their products, they start off um, releasing on GMT, by the way. So it's not on
Mhm.
like Pacific Coast time or East Coast time. They don't have these launches like Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO Max do. They don't have these big, hey, you know, come watch it right now, and the servers crash and the server crash,
Mhm.
it starts trending on Twitter, which is its own strategy. With Amazon, I was telling a friend, I was like, "Yeah, it's up right now." She was like, "Well, no, I just went and checked." I'm like, "What? It's up for me." And then like an hour later, she's like, "Okay, yeah, I'm watching it now on Thursday." So I don't know. Maybe that's part of their strategy, or maybe that's just the way they do their streaming releases, so they don't ever overload the system. Amazon could be doing some crazy stuff, but yeah, I don't know, but it's working for them because it comes out early.
Yeah, and I think like you say, it's one of those things where they probably saw the numbers with boys because they did a similar strategy. I don't know if you remember. The boys used to come out around Thursdays as well, and so I think they probably saw the numbers and this might be a good strategy, and to continue going with all these major type of releases that are these high profile kind of superhero shows that we want to put out there. So kind of interesting. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what the next is on their docket. For strategy releases for new TV shows. Oh, probably the what is it? The Lord of the Rings trilogy or whatever, right? What
Yeah,
they're going that new show for Lord of the Rings. I'm sure they're going to do something very similar. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. Or maybe they'll be like, look, this is a big enough IP that shit. We'll probably pop it up on a Friday, right up in Disney's face. We don't give a damn. So we'll see.
yeah.
Oh man. So moving on to Disney, man, Disney Plus. So we saw Obi-Wan TV show got some plug recently where they were talking and we heard the actor Ewan McGregor talking a little bit about what we're going to see in this new TV show. So for those that don't know, this show was one of those that got delayed for so long. I think they even had stopped filming what they already wrote, and they just went back to basics and had to rewrite everything. So then, of course, COVID hit, and that delayed things even more. So, are you excited about Obi-Wan TV show for Disney Plus?
No, I'm just. It's. I have full confidence that it's going to be good, but it's just not something that I'm thinking about. Like, oh yeah, I am actually actively excited for this. Um, no, Ewan McGregor's cool. I like the Obi-Wan character, especially from his Clone Wars era. Before he got all old and crotchety. And I'm not. Wait, do you know what the timeline on this is? When he's supposed to be? Are these
I was told it's after Return to Jedi. I'll look it up where he's kind of in that that area where he's kind of watching over the twins, right, before they grow up, the Luke and Leia twins. But I don't quote me on that, but I guess we can look it up.
Okay.
But yeah. But either way, I mean, so you're not excited. You're just like, hey, it's gonna be functional.
No, come on, man. Star Wars is like pizza for me. It's all good, delicious and cheesy. Um, so
Star Wars, all Star Wars characters matter, man. Come on.
that one pizza with pineapple and anchovies on it. We know about that one. That's yeah.
But to be fair, we didn't know the Mandalorian was gonna be this good. I mean,
Yeah,
so
exactly. So exactly.
I have faith in them, but I mean, and then the Obi-Wan character is a character we know. I mean, shit, not just from the original series, but the prequels, but the Clone Wars, right, which have their
Mhm.
own fan base. And like you said, I think in the Clone Wars, I mean, because I've seen a couple, I haven't watched the whole thing. I think you probably have more insight than I do on the Clone Wars, but I'm thinking that that character came out pretty good in that TV show. Is that what happened in the Clone Wars for the most part?
Well, we got to see a lot more about him, his relationship with Anakin, how he was important to the Jedi Order. Uh, so it really fleshed out the character a lot. So as I said, there are tons of fans who are really just loving that character, and he's a good character. I'm just not thinking, oh, I want to go see that guy.
Hmm. Hmm. Almost. Is it as bad as did we really need to see a prequel for Han Solo? Is it like on that
Hmm.
level?
No, no, no. I actually wanted to see a Han Solo prequel more. I do like the bounty hunter smuggling aspect of things. So I was interested in Solo. I was interested in the Mandalorian in that respect. Um, but proper talking guy with a nicely shaved beard. Um, I love the dude. I love the dude, but I'm just like I'm not jumping up and down to like yes.
Yeah, it is a good point. So it's kind of like, Han Solo inherently, right? There's a lot of conflict in that character, right?
Hmm.
Because he is he's got a decent heart, but he's still a rascal, right? He may shoot first,
Yeah.
or maybe not. Who knows, right? But so and then Obi-Wan, there's really no conflict. I mean, he basically was, Padawan, then became a Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, just a good guy all the way around. And so it's like, dude, where's your conflict?
You know what? And the Clone Wars TV show does touch on that, where he went through some stuff. He never went like rogue conflict, kind of crazy or anything. Grew his hair out, nothing like that. He never got the Jesus look, just bumming around. But he did go through some things where it's like, man, uh, if that would have happened to me, I don't know what I would have done. But he stayed
Okay.
true, and I was like, okay, cool. I like this character more now. But
Okay. Okay.
he's a fine character.
Yeah.
Let me not put it out there the wrong way.
Because like you're right. I mean, but it's like there's two ways to kind of make a character interesting then, right? Then the other way is like the internal conflict, which is always, I think, better because then there's a lot more story potential. But then external, right? So he's probably gonna have to they're gonna have to put him in a lot of different situations, right? So anyway, we'll see it. So I'm I'll watch it like you. I mean, am I excited? Yeah, sure. It's a Star Wars, and I'm sure we're gonna see some cool shit. But to your point, is it necessary? Yeah.
I'll tell you this. He's a fan favorite just because people know him. A lot of ladies like him for whatever reason. And during the Clone Wars, they actually got into his love life a little bit. So
Okay.
see that part's interesting because when he starts going back telling uh, Luke about love and all that stuff in the prequels, you kind of like had this idea of like, come on, dog. We know a little bit about your story, dog. Why are you talking like that?
So we're gonna so Obi-Wan fucks. Is that what we're trying to say? He gets it in.
Obi-Wan gets it in.
All right, man.
Save
So
me, Obi-Wan, save me.
you're my only choice. Oh man. Oh wow. That has a whole new connotation now. Wow. And I'm sure there's some kind of porno kind of version of that. So anyway, we'll move on. Tenet. Tenet movie popped up on HBO Max this weekend. For those that don't know, this is that Christopher Nolan movie that was basically like a James Bond film with a twist, right? A time twist. And it was supposed to save the movie theater because it came out like during the height of pandemic. I want to say in the summertime, on June, and Warner Bros. Released it into movie theaters because Christopher Nolan said, "I don't want my vision to be shown anywhere but on the movie theater." And it did okay. I got to look at the numbers, but I did, it did close to 100 million worldwide, but here in the States it did not perform as well. And that was it, right? Once Tenet didn't perform as well, we didn't really see a lot of movies being released anymore at that point. So kind of interesting to just kind of go about it. We'll talk a little bit about the movie itself, which I've seen, but Ben, I know you haven't yet. But then we'll also talk about what does that mean for blockbusters in the future as we start to emerge back into theaters. So I know. What are your thoughts about Tenet? Are you excited to kind of see it now that the hype's down, died down almost a year later? So you're like, oh yeah, that movie was supposed to be so hyped, and so now I gotta go check it out.
The thing with online hype is, well, watching something like this is there's this whole Easter egg hunt going on. So I'm going to be into that anyway. So right after I watch it, I suspect I'll be watching some, you know, here are the top
Oh yeah,
32 Easter egg videos and all that, or make you missed this. And then I'll probably go back and check it out again if it's good to me.
oh yeah, oh yeah. You know that Charlie Day meme, where he's sitting around trying to figure out all the history of what this happened here and all that. You
Yeah,
ever seen
yeah.
that meme where he's just sitting on a whiteboard looking crazy?
Yep.
That's gonna be you after this movie, guarantee.
Is it, and as I said, that's only something we could do now. So, I know you want your vision to be in theaters, but you've opened the door to all this madness that's happening now with the internet and streaming. So you can't really close it. Uh, I want to see what people are going to do next. But yeah, it's interesting. And I'll come back definitely after we watch this and have a full take on it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's maybe do a little quick check in with Tenet. But like I said, I've watched all the videos and the memes, and yeah, it's deep, man. It's like, and matter of fact, I still don't think I understand a lot of it. I think I'm a pretty sharp guy, man. It's like there's some scenes in there you just like I don't understand what is happening right now. But okay, so I have no clue how this dude wrote this. I mean, so for those that know Christopher Nolan, even before he did the Batman movies, right? He was like known for doing these weird, type of movies. One of his first movies called Memento. That's a classic if you've never seen it. And have you seen Memento?
I like Memento.
Oh man, I literally I never forget, two of my coworkers years ago to go watch this movie, and I told them, I said, "This watch this director. This guy's gonna blow up," and they were like, "Yeah, whatever." And sure enough, he did. And basically, for those that didn't see it, spoiler alert, but it's a movie that's really told backwards. And so to think of that as like one of your first movies, can, and then ever since then, he's still even the blockbuster movies, there's always some kind of like little weird little thing in there. Like if you remember, what was that? I can't remember, is that Batman Begins or The Dark Knight, where they had that scene where what's his name, Morgan Freeman, he came to Batman, and Batman said, "Look, this is all the cell phones, and you can see everybody, and we'll know what's going on." And then Morgan Freeman is aghast. He's like, "Oh, this is a you have a watch, you're watching everyone." So it's like, why is this in a blockbuster, man? We're talking about the deep state right here, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like he throws stuff in there, like crazy stuff like that. So make a long story short, man, Christopher Nolan is someone that is going to put some interesting things in there, and I think this is a movie that is a culmination of everything he's ever done, and one almost incoherent. But once you do the deep dives, you start to kind of sense that yeah, he has some bigger things in here, but
Hmm.
it's one of those movies you got to watch like 3 times.
Yeah, that the whole movie reminded me of not not Tenet, but Memento.
Memento.
It actually reminded me of Nas's song Rewind.
Okay.
Nas has a song that goes backwards, and
Uh-oh.
if you haven't listened to it, like actually sat down, it hasn't been a while where I've sat down and listened to a song, but this is one of those songs where you actually have to sit down and listen to it and just kind of stare at the ceiling, like, huh, this is a song that's going backwards.
Yeah, I think you did mention that to me years ago. But so wait a minute. So when he's rapping and saying crazy words forward, and then they just play it backwards, and it makes sense backwards.
No, no, he's. I mean, the lines are going forward, but it's like you know, um, I closed the door, and then I jumped up, and all the covers wrapped around me. It's like,
Oh, the storytelling side of it is going backwards.
yeah, it's like if you think about it, you're like, wait a minute, how do you jump up and the covers wrap around you? Oh, if you're telling it backwards, it's like you threw the covers off and you jumped out of bed. You know,
Mm. Man, cats, man. That's yeah. So Nas and Christopher Nolan, man. They're
yeah.
just, thinking on different levels right now. So yeah, go check it out. Maybe we'll catch it up. Hey, if you out there, if you've already seen Tenet, give us a thumbs up. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, definitely the conversation has died down from it. And so, but people are going to maybe catch it again. It's going to be interesting to see if that pops back up again, right, on the algorithms. So anyway, so moving on, man, I think, the big story today we're going to talk a little bit about is kind of cover the audio revolution, man. So this is something that we've been kind of talking here and there about Clubhouse and podcasting and just audio in general. So I'll set the stage as for this big conversation. So this is what we do on Show versus Business. We take a topic, we go deep on it, talk about the business side. We'll talk a little bit about the pop side. So Clubhouse kind of started it since it was this app. If you haven't heard about it, that you can open up on your Apple phone and you can listen to people just talk, right? And just have these different rooms, and some are like run by Elon Musk, right, or Gary V, and then others are just two guys talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? So they could be, anybody can create a what you call a room, and then you have these moderators on top who kind of govern the rooms, and anybody can just pop in or out of these rooms. And based on their growth over the pandemic, because obviously we weren't doing a lot, they got tons of funding from VCs, and they ended up with a valuation over $4 billion after 1 year. So that is crazy, man. That's unheard of how fast, how much money they got in so fast amount of time, and even in the startup world. So anyway, they kind of set the stage for like this new audio kind of revolution, and we'll talk a little bit about like the Facebook news around this and Apple news about it. But before we get into that, what are your overall thoughts about this new revolution in audio, man? What I mean, it's been around for a while. Podcasts have been around forever, but this is people are finally starting to innovate and think about what audio can mean for us. And so I have some thoughts, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on like where do you think audio could go, or is this something that just a flash in the pan?
Nah, well, definitely not a flash in the pan, man. This is, you're taking up the excess cycles basically of people's time where you're not doing anything and you want to be listening to something. You know, before the internet really popped off, and you spoke on this about how video, the technology for video popped off so quickly. We didn't really have time to sit down and work out how audio alone was going to work. So now it's like, yeah, well, I'm driving in my car. I don't want to watch a TV show while I'm driving in my car. Maybe there's a podcast, or maybe there's a recurring show that I could play in my audio. Um, if I'm going to bed, maybe there are bedtime podcasts where you just, you press play and it's like, hi, welcome to Nothing Much Happens is the name of one. Welcome to Nothing Much Happens. This is a podcast bedtime story where nothing much happens. And this lady just starts telling you a bedtime story, and you don't have to worry about, what happens, because in every story, nothing much happens. That's just there to put you to sleep. So you've got all this extra time where you could be listening to stuff, while you're cooking, washing, working out. If you go to like I know I had to change gym memberships, and I went to a club that really didn't service black people, and I'm like, my God, I'm not listening to all the stuff they're playing here. Where
Wait a minute, where's my Jeezy? Come on, man, y'all, get the fuck out of here, man. Play some Jeezy.
I had to buy some, new workout headphones and over the earbud kind of deals. I'm like, I can't deal with this. So yeah, but audio, there are a lot of places where you could just really put out pure audio. And in fact, we're doing it right now. Somebody could be at work typing on a spreadsheet that doesn't take too much mental muscle, and they could be listening to us in the background. That's the whole vibe. You got a lot of time for people to listen to other people talk or whatever you're listening to. It doesn't have to be talking necessarily, but it's big, man. And yeah, with the new technologies, voice access, people are just now starting to realize that there's a lot of room for innovation, and everybody, it seems, is trying to uh, make sure that they're not left out of it.
Now, well said. I mean, yeah, definitely, I agree. It's just kind of like, you know, audio is kind of left on the side of the road, right? But I had an interesting conversation with someone earlier this week about that. It was just like, I mean, for me, it made sense because I grew up listening to tapes with my dad and, talk radio and then later on sports radio. So, having audio around me was always something that made sense to me, right? Just listening and stuff all the time. So that to me made sense, immediately just for me personally. But also, I do think, the technology has evolved where now we have these wireless headphones, right, that make audio everywhere. So now the advent of the AirPods and these other type of revolution technologies. Once the battery life gets better and better, I can see us just permanently having these things in our ears, right? And literally, I'm kind of having these things in my ears all day, right? Just in case someone calls. Now, a text message comes across. I'm hearing a text message now, right? I can respond to it. And so now, why not have some things in my ear that I'm listening to, that I'm learning from, or entertained with, right? And so to me, I think the technology has evolved where the audio experience can be more immersive and more all encompassing, right? Where you don't have to, oh, I gotta go to my office and put the headphones on, or go to my car to listen to the music or something like that. So now you can take these headphones with you everywhere. And now think about this, because you can take it everywhere with you. I've had almost, I mean, for lack of a better term, like intimate type of felt like I have conversations with people that I barely know, but I feel like I know them because I listen to them on audio so much, right? So
Mm,
I can literally remember when I'm listening to an audio podcast and they say something. I thought, yeah, he did talk about that. And I remember exactly where I was when I heard that, right? It's kind of like you kind of create like, and it's like if you're walking and it's a beautiful day and someone's saying something to you, you're gonna remember that I was with this podcaster, Gary V, and he was yelling in my ear about NFTs. But man, it was such a beautiful day. Man, I like Gary V. So you kind of conflate, a good experience in your real life with what you're hearing. And so now you have a general pleasant experience with Gary V, right? And so I think that audio experience makes people feel more connected to you. And other podcasters have said this. One podcast I listened to, what's it called, with uh Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher from and they have a podcast, a business and technology podcast. They talk about this all the time. They know they do a lot of different content, and they know if someone comes up to them and just starts talking to them as a friend, say, you probably listen to me on my podcast because you feel like them, right? Because they
yeah,
tell their stories just like us, right? We tell our stories and stuff like that. So I say all I have to say is, like, I think people are realizing audio can have a better, because it's like, wherever you are, you feel like people are there with you, even though it's just all in your head. And so I think that's why I think, to your point, I agree with you 100%. Audio is here to stay, and I think even more innovation is probably coming to this space because it's such an intimate and such a pleasant experience, because if you do it right, people will remember you for a lifetime. So that's kind of my belief on it. And
yeah.
so
You know,
you
it's
know
it's also also one of those things that lines up nicely with our sci-fi idea of things. You
mhm.
know, so I've got this little theory that if something matches up in terms of our heads, what matches up with sci-fi and what matches up in the business world, then we're probably going to see it happen sooner rather than later and in better form than we thought. Uh, for example, it's like, we watch Star Trek, and for all these years, they just had the guy say computer, blah 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 blah. And he'd
Mhm.
start talking to the Enterprise, the spaceship. Well, yeah, that's kind of like talking to Alexa now. It's kind of like talking to Siri. So we've already got this idea in our head about talking to computers, um, and then having them talk back to us. It just really works out. So I'm I'm all for it, man. Except for the ear implants. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, when they start, well, Elon Musk wants to actually change our minds so we can just literally be connected, embedded with, these computers. But that's a whole nother story. So, real quick on some of the breakdowns on the news, Facebook, not only, obviously Facebook is the fast follower now. They copy or acquire. Looks like they're going to have an in-app Spotify player. So basically, you'll be able to all your Spotify podcasts and music you probably play in Facebook. So that's going to be interesting. But they're also separately going to build their own in-app podcast player, which I think is powerful because this is where you could possibly add podcasts to Facebook groups, which is huge. I mean, Facebook groups is that little engine that could in Facebook world where it kind of came out of nowhere, right? It's like, here's Facebook, your daddy's, social media, and Instagram is hot, Snapchat, and here they came with Facebook groups, and I think it blew up, right? I mean, and definitely during the pandemic, people still felt connected in these groups, and I think you run a couple yourself, and so there's comments, people are connecting. So imagine you can embed a podcast in there. That'd be huge. And so I think that is something that they're going to start doing. And then and also, like everyone else, they're going to be the try to figure out a way how they can monetize people, right? And really, the fear I have with Facebook and then also Apple's getting into this business is the fact that they're going to have ownership of this content and data. So right now, as independent podcasters that we are right now, right, we have access to all this information. I can easily imagine Facebook's like, oh yeah, we make it easy distribution, our algorithm, blah 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 blah. But are you going to be able to really see your data and who's really listening to you and all that stuff? And that's my concern with these big companies getting to the game now, right? Because if you're an independent podcaster, right, we're doing all the hard work trying to promote it, getting people on it, talking to people, and you get on Facebook, and now you got 1,000 users, but you have no clue what made it happen. And so now you don't know what you need to replicate. And Facebook, will change the algorithm on you in a second. And then you went from 1,000 listeners to 5. So
Yeah.
that's my concern with Facebook, getting the business. And then real quick, and I know you had something to talk about but Apple's also getting into the business. And let's be honest, Apple was the granddaddy, right? They started this whole thing, right? With
Yeah. People forget about the
and
iPod.
man, the iPod was the first ones, and I mean, I was in the game early, man, 2012. I don't know if you remember, you helped me create a icon for one of my tech podcasts I did back in like 2012, 2013, and I did it for a year,
Hmm.
and it was fun. I should have kept doing it, but it was a lot of more work than it is now. But they were the granddaddy, and now they're going to launch like a subscription service, right? And so anyway, so it's a lot of movement here.
Yeah. So with all this movement, like people are saying, where could it go from here? Geez, imagine imagine you're listening. So many different things could happen. And one of the things that we're going to see, I think, with the next era is higher levels of interactivity with this audio. Um, so maybe, you're listening to a podcast and the person says, hey, right now, let us know what you think. And if you just say, like, I don't like it, I'm all for this, or if you like you could leave an audio reply maybe right as you're listening to something, um and then later on the podcast producers, they may be hearing these replies real time. um all kinds of different ways you can go with it, but Facebook in particular is trying out they have this hotline app coming out. It's kind of a Q&A format thing. So I don't know if you've ever been on Reddit, but there's one of their big successful platforms is called AMA, or Ask Me Anything. Basically, somebody gets on there, they start talking noise, and everybody who's interested in that topic starts asking them. So every once in a while, you'll get, as you're referring to, like Elon Musk or somebody important. It's like, hey, let's say, I developed the the mechanics for the Cybertruck, you know, ask me anything. It's like you may have never had a chance to talk with one of these guys, but now he's on this Facebook platform, and all of a sudden you've got this virtual panel set up. The guy who did the mechanics for the Tesla truck or whatever Cybertruck is talking, and you're throwing out your comments and audio. It's happening real time. It's and developing a whole platform around that is a lot different and a lot more effective than what you're seeing now with just a video and people providing comments underneath. Um, and I think that's what Facebook and these other companies are really going for. That I'm right there in the audience with the people talking and we're interacting kind of audio. I think that's that next level that they're pushing for, and no one knows where it's going to go, obviously. But the fact that everybody's building these apps is pretty telling.
Definitely. I mean, personally, I think live audio. I don't know. It's got jury's still out, right? If you're definitely an influencer, I mean, so Clubhouse obviously started kind of dabbling in this, but we know Twitter now has Spaces, and they're starting to kick that off, and we're seeing more. And I think a lot of influencers already kind of like that even better because they already have a presence on Twitter, and so they can probably get a lot more folks on there. And so I'm starting to see more people starting to use Spaces now for their audio, their live audio. So it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of where it goes. Live audio to me podcast recorded audio. So let me take a step back. So there's two two ways to do audio, right? I think is the live audio, and then there's the audio that recorded, right? And so with live audio, there's a lot of innovation I think they're doing, right? Not just with Clubhouse or in Spaces, right? But there are other companies, on the come up, like this one called Racket that's starting to do some things, different things, kind of like short form Twitter like audio that you can just put out there. So we'll see if and that's more recorded, excuse me, but we'll see where what bears out. Personally, I think live only works for like events, and like how many events can you do that's live, right? Common like the it's kind of like the audio concert experience, right? Where you're kind of they're live to listen to a musician, right? Or like a panel discussion like they had with Elon Musk talking to the CEO of Robinhood, right, on Clubhouse. I
Yeah.
mean, that was an event. And so it's kind of like how many of those live events can you actually do, right? That's relevant and can be scalable. And I don't think you can do that many, but I
Well,
do feel there's more room for intimate recorded type sessions.
yeah, definitely there's a lot of room for the intimate recorded type, but I don't. I definitely get what you're saying with the live, but one thing that kind of changed my mind was really thinking about drive time radio, where the guy's telling you the weather, the guy's telling you here's the hot new song that's happening this week. Everybody should be listening to it. Um, I know people like to binge and do things in their own time, but the appeal for developers to have things that are mapped out at certain times. Um, and, like the people over at the Geekish Network that I work with, or Pod Squadron and Bingeworthy and things like that. They've got a schedule going on Twitch, and it's basically like, yeah, once you get used to audio at a certain time, it's just like, oh yeah, it's dinner time. I'm going to cook dinner and listen to the guys talk about X, Y, and Z on the new show coming out on Amazon or something. So I mean, we'll see what people attach to. But I totally get your point. There's definitely that separation. So I don't know.
And well, I think that the challenge with Clubhouse was that, or is, I haven't been on in a minute, but sometimes the audio shows can go over like a lot at times, right? So it can go over an hour or something like that. I do believe live audio could work. If there's a set time, 'cause like you said, drive time radio. If you're going to drive, 5 to 6, it's Shock G, the DJ, right? I'm going to be
Yeah,
from 5 to 6. Go listen to me, right? And I think you're right. That could work then. And then there's call, that you can have call in, right? Because I think that works too, because now you have live interaction. But the challenge with me with Clubhouse was that you had people on there for like 4 hours talking about Bitcoin. I'm like, dude, I
shut the
cannot
hell
be
up.
on here for 4 hours. I cannot be on here for 4 hours, dude. I need a set time, so anyway, so we'll see how things evolve. I mean,
Are you are, you- are you in,
any thoughts?
are you into Twitch? Have you really ever spent any time on it?
No, not as much. I have account and looked at it. What are your thoughts? Do you think I should spend more time there?
No, not necessarily, but it's captured the attention of a lot of people, and a lot of people really put a lot of stake in it. I mean, that's one of their go-to platforms, and the idea of doing a Twitch for audio, I don't know if anybody's really explored that at scale yet. So
Hmm.
it's just interesting thoughts
Well,
here. I don't know what's going to happen.
man, you putting free ideas out there, man. You better watch it, man. Somebody gonna take your idea and run with it. Twitch audio, I love it. But so I love this conversation, man. We'll definitely come back to it. But I was just thinking
Oh,
about it.
dog, I just thought
Uh
of
oh.
something. You know how people game on Twitch, right? Yeah, people game on Twitch all the time. That's the thing with Twitch. Um, but I was thinking, how do you game in audio? Well,
Uh oh. Well, hold
think
on. Don't wait. Hold on. This is gonna make somebody $1 billion. Hold up. Just write it down. Hold up.
in the,
Don't say it yet. Just write it down. And we'll get to it. We'll get to it. How about that?
oh man,
I'm just,
all
I'm a
right.
businessman. Sorry, man. I just gotta make sure we if this is a pretty interesting idea, which I think it is. So my
No,
point
no,
real quick.
I'm sure someone's thought of the idea before, but um, yeah, yeah, we'll talk about it in the chat or whatever. But we'll talk about it later. But yeah, basically, there are a lot of different places this can go. So don't sleep on it. Um, you're going to see a lot of different audio applications, and your phone is listening anyway, so you might as well start talking to it more often.
Yeah, a great way to end. I love it, man. So hey, we'll get into last bit of business here, man. The Invincible finale. So the finale for Invincible, the TV show that took everybody by surprise. Basically it's basically, how would you describe this show? I would just say it's a TV show about a young man that is under and his dad, who happens to be like a Superman. Basic Omni Man is basically Superman for this universe, and he's his dad. He's trying to be just like his dad, and he's also has powers, and he's evolving his powers, and he's trying to figure out who he is in this world and who he wants to be. And so that's pretty much the premise of the show, right? Just a superhero show with the same kind of, insights that we get from all kinds, DC, Marvel, but with a lot of different twists in there. So I guess, before we get into it, what the finale was about, what the show was about, spoiler alert, we'll get
Yep,
into
yep.
some deep dives on some things. So just everyone, be careful. So Ben, where do you want to start with the discussion about Invincible as a series and then the finale itself?
Um, in general, I'm assuming anybody who's listening to this has already started watching. So I'm not even going to bother with trying to sell it to you. The This is good for Western animation. And I'm really excited to see the different places Western animation can go. We're always a little bit behind in terms of like what anime has done. So, we take it, all the violence or the animation style or just the way they do characters, we reformat it, and then we finally, years later, come out with something that works for larger audiences. Um, and I think the Invincible really took a big step in that direction of saying, no, 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 there's still a lot of good places for us to go, and you can tell just by people responding to it. It's like, yeah, I'm tired of hero shows, I'm tired of this and that, and but that Invincible dog,
Wow.
yeah,
No, so that's interesting. You frame it as like, hey, this is innovation, a step forward where we're kind of leading animation as opposed to being behind the times, right? With animation against our Eastern counterparts. So I thought that's kind of interesting the way to start it. But yeah, man, this show should not work at all. I mean, we kind of hinted at it, but I mean, you got like this 90s style TV show. And so I listened to some different podcasts out there, and Robert Kirkman has been going around talking about, his take on this show, right? And where it came from and stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about his thoughts on it. But he kind of mentioned that, yeah, that was it. That was the purpose, right? He wanted to kind of say, hey, put you in the mindset of watching like a X-Men the animated series, right? And then, instead of Wolverine, just scaring people with his claws, he literally chopped someone's heads off his claws. He's like, what would you feel like you saw that in 1992? That's what I'm trying to bring to this
Yeah.
comic, and it works, right? That causes was that dissonance, right, between
Mhm.
what you're seeing and what's actually happening. You're like, wait, but this doesn't compute, and that probably creates more powerful connection to you. So hey, kudos to him, man. And real quick, I'll put this anecdote out there. Did you listen to the interview that he did?
I haven't listened to the Grace Randolph interview, if that's the one you mean.
Yes, that's correct. So he talked about get you never guess in a million years where he got his, and he obviously is the creator of The Walking Dead, and he's just known for this like crazy twist. Where do you think he got this from? He mentioned there was one piece of pop culture
Dragon Ball
that
Z?
he got this. Nah, dude. You got the touch. Dun, dun, dun,
Okay.
dun. The Transformers movie. He said that messed him up as a kid because we
Uh,
used to talk about this all the time, man. Remember the Transformers the movie?
yeah.
Basically, they didn't hold no punches, man. In that 80s movie, man, people got murked in the first 10 minutes. You like, what the hell's happening? And it's so funny. Like the guy that's running a lot of, culture and entertainment, he was also messed up from that. And
Yeah.
instead of, doing what we did, just talk about it late at night in college rooms, he actually put it in his art. So it's kind of interesting, but that's what drove him to create these crazy twists, man. And for those that haven't seen the Transformers the movie, you gotta, man, that movie is crazy, dude. I don't know how they got that through the censors in
Uh,
the 80s.
so yeah, man, I actually got my sister-in-law took me to see that, when I was a kid, and I was like all happy to see it. And I'm going to go ahead and frame this for with spoilers for people who haven't seen it. You should go back and watch it. But this is an era where you were watching. Imagine Ben 10 doing something like this. It just didn't happen. You've got Ben 10, and it's like every week you see him show up and do some new thing. And it's kind of cool and fun, and everything kind of resets. The old 80s, 90s kind of reset at the end of every episode and go about your business. So they decided, as you said, to throw that out the window. Um, people started dying, and other characters that should have helped were lost on some other planet somewhere. And your whole format for watching a movie was like, what the hell is going on? And it was really, I don't want to say hard to follow, but you're watching it and you just were at the edge of, your edge of your seat, trying to keep up with this thing. Um, so I recently, not like very recently, but recently watched it again, and it still kind of hits all those notes. So it's worth checking out. But just remember the context that you're seeing it in, where these characters were, total bubblegum, and you're watching them week to week, and suddenly it plays out as it does. Um,
Man, brilliant, man. I just remember some of our talks about that. We belong to him. Sorry, guys. It's an inside joke. We'll talk about that one day. But just stuff like that, or Megatron coming back as Galvatron talking about take a hint and just blows Starscream to smithereens, man. It's just like, dude, what is this about, man? It went
yeah,
crazy, man. It
but
went
yeah,
ham.
but to your point, he bridges that gap between these shows on TV. They do a good job of saying, "Hey, well, we're not going to go this far, even though you're thinking about it. We have this weird world. We got the suspension of disbelief set up, and you know that this guy's not going to die. You know that, like, if you're watching the Batman cartoon, you know the Joker's not going to die. Spider-Man, he's going to web them up, and they're going to go to jail, but they'll be back next week or whatever. There are these certain tropes that and Robert Kirkman did a good job with this in Invincible, where you're really not sure because it's like, well, damn it, these characters in TV shows aren't supposed to ever fall in love like this. They're not supposed to ever break up like this. They're not supposed to ever die like this. They're not supposed to ever, use their powers like this or change their minds even. you just had all these things happening, and over the course of the show, it really adds up to a big transformative change that I think is really good for American animation. So that's
No, wait, no, well said, man. I mean, I think you netted back to once again we talked about it, but again, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But in this episode, the finale, Omni Man goes bad, and so he
wait,
basically,
worse.
huh?
He goes worse.
Yeah, he goes worse. Exactly. Well, yeah, you're right. In the cartoon, in this series, they pretty much hinted that he is an asshole or he's a bad guy. But literally, he basically confronts his son, who's always looked up to him and thinks he's this great guy, and they have a big blowout fight, which we saw it was getting up to. And when we say blowout fight, man, this is a fight for the ages, man. As someone who read the comics, right, it wasn't as visceral as watching it as a cartoon. And so I think when we talked about on Thursday, you had already seen it, and I hadn't seen it yet. And after I saw it, I think I texted you. I said fire. I said fire because I mean, it was a lot of the same beats. Everything they said was very similar in the comic book,
Hmm.
but it was just like, and Robert Kirkman hinted at this. It's like there's just something different about actually hearing, people hearing bones crunch and things like that, where it's just like more visceral, right?
Now,
And seeing action.
now I'm going to assume that because it's a meme on Instagram and Twitter right now. But what scene really just made you like, ugh, this is that shit?
Yeah, obviously the subway scene, right? Is that the
Yep,
one you're talking about?
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one I was like, "Oh, they're really gonna go here." I mean, it's like so when they start, when his dad was just like relentless and just how these human beings were nothing to him. I mean, and then basically when he started just killing the pilots, he's like, "Okay, they're going there with this." And so the thing is, though, real quick, I'm taking a sidebar, but can this character be redeemable now? It's like he's done some crazy shit. Now, granted, there's some stuff coming down the line, that they're trying to think through like some stuff with this dad character, but it's like, man, he went through some places, man. It's like, dude, I don't know, man. But yeah, so when they took him to and then the whole building thing, that was pretty messed up. So it was like they try to give you a sense of, how he looks at human beings like bugs, right? This is nothing to me, right? Whatever, I'm just moving on with my life. And hopefully you try, but obviously can't sympathize with that. But then you also gave it Mark's point of view where he saw the humanity of these people, right? I got to help these people. This is what you're supposed to do. And then when he took them to the subway, I was like, oh gosh, man, why you guys gotta go there? It's like the worst you could do. It just I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's almost as bad. I mean, if I was a kid watching this, that's almost as bad when I watched Akira when I was little in high school.
Mm.
And that scene at the very end, help me, squish.
Oh, damn.
So, if I was a kid watching this, that's kind of how I would have felt watching this. But anyway, going back to your thoughts.
Oh yeah, I was actually surprised they pulled a what I call the menace to society during the subway scene. Um, I don't know if that's the old gangster movie, I guess you want to call it. But, but basically, when something was about to go down towards the end, they they stopped with the regular camera angles. They stopped doing the perfect 90-degree angles. They stopped framing up everybody nicely. You started seeing the camera droop to the bottom two-thirds of the screen and swing around people.
Mhm.
The music got more intense. And playing with the cinematography like that, when I saw them doing that during the subway scene, where it's like they started slowing down a little bit and the animation was a little more fleshed out and the expressions on the faces were a little more detailed. You were like, oh shit. They brought in the other animation team and the audio team to holy crap. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it just hit you in a different way. So uh it yeah, that it literally changed the format of the show at that point. You know what I mean? So
Good. Yeah. Wow. See, that's why I have you on this podcast, man. You see stuff like that, man. As an artist yourself, he's like, oh wow, they're changing perspective so that so there's a lot of things they do, right, with music and artistry to kind of get feel emotion, right? It's not just words, right?
Right.
So I
And
thought that's kind of interesting.
yeah, and you're seeing something presented in a new way that you think you understand, and it's like, no, no, it's worse than that, or it's crazier than that. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things you have to sprinkle in to get that certain effect. And yeah,
Hmm.
bravo. But go on.
As Yeah, so do you think the part so obviously there's the climatic scene at the end where basically he's beating the crap out of his son's all bloody, teeth is missing, and the father does he's got to do his job, and he's just full of anger because his son won't listen to him. He can't, but he does that flashback. I mean, did that affect you? I mean, as as a father who has a son, that affect. I ain't gonna lie, that affected me a little bit. I was like, man, damn, it's like you go show all this gore and carnage, and then you go to a baseball game, a little league baseball game. So it's just like, Kirkman, you bastard. So
No,
yeah, so I thought that affected me a little bit, more than I thought it should, right?
it
And
hit me. It hit
but
me.
did it hit you? Okay, good. So you're not completely heartless. That's good. But then yeah, man. So, the whole thing, I mean, and it played very similar. They didn't have a flashback in the comic book, but it played very similar where basically Omni Man, is just, he's an emotional wreck. I mean, even though, he did all these bad things, seeing his son bloodied up and his son still fighting, it's like another podcast I listened to, they talked about this, the Midnight Boys. Shout out Van Lathan and Charles Holmes. Uh, they mentioned that, it's a fight of wills and of emotion, right? And so, you know, Mark has a lot of will, even though, he doesn't have a lot of power, and that will won out the day because at the end he still fought his dad. His dad's like, "What would you have after 500 years?" He said, "I still have you, Dad." And
Yeah,
damn, he couldn't take it no more.
yeah, man. Yeah, man, that got me because I mean, you know what? I'd always been thinking about the title of the show, Invincible, and I don't know where all the places they were going with it, but when he said that line, I thought like, man, this kid's got like an invincible spirit, man.
Mm.
And that's what I kind of thought with that. And I was like, you can beat me all you want, but my spirit's still here. I was like, damn. And so, and then of course he flew off and left. And I don't know. Did it? I know what it meant to me, I guess, or I think I know. But what did the violence leading up to all of this mean to you? Or was it too much? I know a lot of people are just gonna say, yeah, it's too violent, or
I mean, we talked about it. What do you mean, the episodes, other episodes of violence that led up to this massive amount of violence, or what do you mean?
yeah, yeah, I mean, did all the violence have a point? Does it have a point, or is it just extra?
No, I think it definitely has a point. It brings in stakes. I mean, that's one thing we're missing from like superhero movies and cartoon superhero movies, right? There's no stakes. I mean, you remember GI Joe? The plane would blow up and they always had a parachute, right? And so it's just like I mean, I get it at the time, but it's like now, we know heroes can die. We know there's consequences for actions, and so if you remember, so I think the first big, we talked about the first episode. They had that little what end credit scene where basically we saw Omni Man go ham on the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And that to me was like set the tone because it shows like, what he's got to do, what he's willing to do, right? To kind of win. And then also I think the second episode is when he, teamed up with the team. Was it the team? I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
The team, Robot and Adam Eve and all that, those guys. Then people were dying, and they were trying to say, yeah, this is how it is. The people don't want to realize it, but if you're trying to save people, this is what you got to deal with. And it's almost like being in a war, right? That's
yeah,
kind of was that frame in episode 2. So to me, every violence they did meant something because it kind of elevated the stakes. Even the part where he met your favorite character, Battle Beast. getting his ass beat, right?
Yeah.
That meant something, right? Like you can't lose, right? And so how do you deal with that? And so to your point, I don't think it was just, gore and violence just for the sake of it. It wasn't gratuitous. It had a point. So that was my thought.
I totally agree. And what's funny is all that violence and just the visceral nature of it all made me appreciate how they play off comedy and the really simple animation and visual style. Because I'm not sure I would have gone for this if it was like a more realistic or more intense anime style,
Mhm.
because that would have made it just seem, I don't know. I don't think a lot of American audiences could have really gotten through it if it hadn't had this kind of intentional style.
No, I agree. So, no, man, it was a great show, man. I mean, what'd you think about the ending, man? So obviously, he's gone, and now Mark Grayson, or Invincible, has to live his life, and I love the ending, man. So it's kind of like I used to be a Wire TV show, and like at the end of the Wire, they always did like a little montage of like things to come or what happened
Hmm.
in the previous season, and they kind of did two. They did one that happened to Mark and how he got to this point. Then they did one when he met with Alan the alien, voiced by Seth Rogen, and they sat on the moon just talking. He said, "So what are you gonna do now?" And they did a flashback of all these characters, right, you've seen before. And so, and as a comic reader, I know where this is all going. But was there anything that stood out for you of that montage that got you excited?
Uh, Actually, I don't have anything in my head that stuck out to me in the montage. I was I was actually just kind of I was kind of in my head just kind of giving them the bravo clap, because the way they set up dude coming back, there's like, hey, there's a blip coming back to Earth. It's like, oh, who is it? The guy is like, hey, 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 are you okay? We heard there was a vulture right here. So it's like, okay, um, that was just a good, bravo clap
Fake
moment
out.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like that. But no, as far as a montage standout moment, I don't remember one like a standout. No.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk about a little bit. Maybe we'll do some awards. I'll throw it out there for you. Maybe we'll do a couple of end of season awards. Uh, yeah. So there's a lot of interesting stories coming up, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they go. At least two more seasons. Obviously, this is a comic book that ran for like 15 years. It's got 140 something episodes. Comic book books, and so there's a lot of story to cover. So we'll see what they do. I'm kind of, and Robert Kirkman obviously says they're gonna. There were some changes they made from the comic book, like it just basically, it was definitely. I think it was more violent in the final battle than the comic book.
Hmm.
I think Debbie, his mother, she, is more in the know. She's more proactive, right? She's not a reactive character like she was in the comic books.
Hmm.
So it seemed like they just made it more, for lack of a better term, made it more relevant and more, current to
Sure.
how we, deal with things. So the mother's more relevant. Amber is actually race bent, to a black character. She was actually white in the comic book. And then William, he wasn't gay in the comic books, and now he turned out gay later. Now he started out as
Yes.
gay. So I think they're trying to make it more relevant. And because Robert Kirkman's involved, right? He did kind of mention that, hey, it was created by two white guys in the '90s. So yeah, we didn't, know better. So
Yeah.
let's do better. So and then obviously now is two Asian leads, right, with Sandra Oh and Stephen Young. So
Yeah.
it's definitely an interesting time to watch comic books. So I love
Oh,
it, man.
oh,
Go ahead.
one thing I do want to see a little more of, we're talking about what's coming next and everything. Um, Obviously, there's the interplanetary angle, and I think in the montage they may have had the alien race that kept showing up and getting their asses beat. Uh, so they
The
were,
Flaxians, yeah, the
yeah,
Flaxians.
they were funny enough, and just hadn't impressive enough of a presence to me to really want to see them again. I'm sure I will. That was just too good to leave alone. But yeah, that if anything, that.
So in the season awards, man, I know, just throwing this out there here for you. So see what your thoughts are. Uh Best character. Who you thought was the best character this season?
Um, I want to throw out Battle Beast. He just really stuck to me.
he,
Uh,
he had no art, man. He just looked cool.
you know what? Maybe it's because he was
What was his
called
arc?
inciting incident. I don't like you. You know.
He just showed up, beat some ass. It's like, you guys are weak. I'm gonna find some better prey.
I don't know. He just felt like a cool character to me. Let's see for the actual characters. I liked. I didn't like him when he first showed up, but the was Impossible Man, the guy who the Immortal
The
Man.
immortal, yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of cool on his second return because they showed his little montage of him just being alive all this time. He wakes up and he's like, "I gotta whip that ass. I'm awake."
uh, they showed their montage. You know who he was in one of his lives.
Who is that referencing?
A- Abraham Lincoln, brother.
Oh, you know what? That may have been so like too noticeable to me to actually realize it. I was just like, okay, yeah, he was around in that era. Okay, but
He
actually
with the
being
top
Abraham,
hat. Yeah, he
yeah,
had the top hat. He was in the theater, so and they kind of reference in the comic books, but they never really kind of directly say, "Hey, you were Abraham Lincoln." They just like,
oh,
like you
that's
said,
that's
he's been
funny.
around. So my favorite characters are the Mauler twins. They just something about them is hilarious, man. There's just two guys, one guy basically he always creates a twin of himself. It's like why? And they just like super smart, super strong, but they like they always fucking up. They never can get things right, man.
Yeah,
So and then the whole in the comic book they go into more of this whole like and they kind of hinted at it when Robot got transferred his consciousness. This whole thing of like they never know who's a real clone or not because
yeah,
if and they hint at it, but there's a reason why. Because if the other one knows he's inferior, then he's gonna start trying to kill the other one.
yeah.
So
Really,
it's weird.
I think I pulled that idea out of what they were giving me. You know,
Mhm. Because
yeah,
they'll always dog each other out. Clone, you don't know what you're doing, clone. And they'll
yeah,
just he said, "No, I'm the if you must be the inferior one because you don't know how this equation works." So it's like they need each other, but they hate each other. It's like a weird dynamic, man, and it works so well in the cartoon for me. And then the fact that they all, like you said, one thing about being a clone, you always know what the other one's thinking. So they put this plan together to try to go after a robot, and I thought that was kind of cool. So to me, just something about them. They work for me as a character, man.
yeah.
So moving on, what would you think is your best moment from the series, not just the finale, but the whole series that you just like? Yeah, this is something here, something special.
Um, I mean, they're your obvious, end of the first season. I mean, end of the first episode. Craziness, and then there's the crazy subway whole beatdown thing. Um, but those are feel a little too obvious. I think watching Omni Man go to go to the Flaxian. You said the Flaxian's
Yep.
planet when he was just like when the portal was closing. Usually it's just like, oh, the portal's closing. Well, whatever. He was like, nah, bitch. Flew his ass, flew into the portal. Just started wrecking shop, and then was like, let me out of here, or I'll continue destroying everything. And they made a portal and sent him back. I was like, that is excellent. And then the wife was just like, oh, he went to another dimension, and he'll be back.
Was that wordless? I can't remember. Was that scene wordless? Like it was just
Wordless.
all told. It was all told through animation. It was like you got
Yeah,
the whole premise. Like he came there, whooped ass, and basically like threatened them with a mountain. Said, "Look, you better send me back. I'm gonna just keep killing everybody." And they just opened a portal, and he still killed them. I think.
yeah,
So yeah, nah, that was a cool moment. I'm trying to think, so I know I'm putting out these awards, what are some cool moments for me? I think for me, obviously, I was thinking, because obviously I wanted to read the comic book and get ahead of it and everything. I was the first, when it got real for me at the end, with Omni-Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that was definitely something that's kind of like remind me of Game of Thrones, the first episode there. Like, happened at the end. Spoiler alert, but Jamie threw out Bran, and that was kind of, it's like, okay, they're getting serious about this.
Yeah.
But for me, the best moment, I do like the quieter moments, right, where he is like contemplating, just being kind of like that Peter Parker angle when he's hanging
Yeah.
out with his friends and stuff like that. And to me, that kind of makes me like the character more, right? Because he's trying to be a real person and everything. And so I like the part where Eve and him are just talking in a tree, and she's just talking about she just gave up superhero life and she's just trying to be a better person and just do more work, right, with her powers than just going to beat up villains all the time. And to me, that was like a deeper thought around like what does it mean to be a superhero beyond just beating up villains. So I thought that was kind of a good moment for me. Moving on, best villain. Who'd you like from the season?
Well, see, there were these toys back in the 80s, 90s. There's little plastic guys. They were called Battle Beast, right? You can go look them up right now. If they didn't get the idea for this guy from the actual Battle Beast, I'd be highly, highly surprised.
Oh man, I think he's a fan favorite, man. So I think he'll be back. So stronger than ever, man. So yeah, man. There's a nice little in that montage, man, or the one that Nolan talks about. There's some heavy hitters coming. He kind of hinted at, about the story of Ultramite and how it became this powerful
Yeah.
society. There's some heavy hitters coming there. So just FYI.
Yeah, that was an honorable mention scene. Um, how they were talking about how they had to basically battle each other and whittle it down to the strongest ones. That was a pretty powerful scene right there. So I did like
Yeah.
that one too.
Yeah, for me, the best villain, I like the Titan. It was kind of a short kind of story. But his Titan is the one that can, boss up and get,
Oh, right,
basically
right.
like concrete. But I mean, it was a story, he had his daughter, and so he leveraged his daughter, he basically manipulated uh the Invincible, right, to help him become the boss. So, and but there was a story behind it. I mean, I think it was a legit story, but at the same time, he still manipulated, and that's how Invincible got his ass beat by Battle Beast, right? So and at the end, Titan was like, okay, I'm the boss now, right? And so to me, I thought that was kind of like a nice little story. And the story, they kind of did a whole episode just for him, and so kind of tell his story. And so he's gonna go on. So I like, just kind of like one of those like, hey, crime, low level villains that that's always around, kind of like the Penguin for Batman, or the Kingpin for Spider-Man, but really for Daredevil. They're always around, these little boss, guys. They're kind of amoral, right? They're like, look, I work with you sometime, but if you cross purposes, you mess with my money, I'll cut your ass. So it's kind of like, I think Titan's kind of like that character to me. And so I kind of like them in that regard. So yeah, man, those are some of the awards I kind of was thinking of. Anything else you want to mention about Invincible before we wrap up?
Um, no, just one curious thing. I like how they threw threw the title on the screen. The word invincible, and it kept getting like a little bloodier and bloodier every time. But it's like the blood splat would come before. It's like just prepping you, for what's
Mhm.
about to happen. It's like, yeah, I feel, and then the title come up, invincible, and the blood splat. And it's like, are you really invincible, bruh? I don't know. So
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I love. Yeah, it's like you don't even think about the meaning. It's such a nothing name, Invincible. It's like, what does that even mean, right? But then you're right. In a course of what does that really mean? Is he just has an invincible spirit? It's not really so much his body, and does that make him a hero? Right? It's not who he is. And so I thought that was a good takeaway from it. But nah, man, kudos, like you said, man, golf clap all around to the creator and Robert Kirkman, man. That dude keeps winning, man. Good for him. I mean, it's not enough to have a massively successful TV show, right? It's been on for almost over 10 years, The Walking Dead, but now, and all the spinoffs from that. So I'm sure he's getting millions of dollars from that. Now his little comic book, other show movie, and I think if I remember correctly, Invincible came out before Walking Dead, so it was his first, Image one, and then Walking Dead came out, which is a massive hit also. So
Yeah.
the dude keeps winning, man. I mean, kudos to him, man. So
Yeah, that kind of money can. I mean, depending on how much control you've got over your stuff, that kind of money could be serious. And with Image Comics, they're very developer focused, so he may have a very good deal worked out with just the
creator
publishing a lot of
owned.
that stuff. Yeah.
Good point.
So um, yeah, Birdman was just talking. Y'all, Birdman from Cash Money. You know, uh, to the Birdman hand rub. He was just
Put some
talking, and
respect on my name. Respect.
yeah, they were just talking about masters, and he's like, man, I don't even work that hard with the masters trying to make money off of them. I just sit around and 20 or 30 million a year come in from that. And the guy was like, wait, what could be going on? It's like, well, a company calls and they say they want to play it for some festival and everything, and you either thumbs up or thumbs down, and 20 or 30 million a year from that. It's like, huh.
Mm, mm-mm. Ownership, baby,
Yeah,
ownership. So it's all about that business and
that's right.
show versus business, man. It all wraps up in that, man. So, man, great way to end, man. So, anything else going on for this week for you?
This week, man, we have a little bit of a break now, so I'm about to pile on as much anime as I can this week, before Bad Batch starts in a couple days. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We gotta get into that, man. You gotta give me what kind of show notes I need to get prepared for that. And anime, man. So anything you recommend I catch up on? I know you're on Crunchyroll. Is it Crunchyroll?
Funimation, Funimation.
Oh, Funimation, Crunchyroll, Funimation. It was something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's a lot of places you can start if you just want to find. You may be able to get like the first episode of Attack on Titan. You don't need to watch the whole thing because it's like
Okay.
long and it can go dry in some spots. But Neon Genesis Evangelion
Mhm.
is a classic. I think that's on Netflix, and uh, the Brotherhood, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, is also on Netflix. That's a pretty good watch. And the first episode of Attack on Titan. That's just the first episode of Attack on Titan. It'll change your
Okay.
perception of how stories can get started. You're like, huh, all right.
Sure. Go for a ride. Okay. No, I'll check it out, man. Maybe we'll talk a little. We gotta start. I know there's a lot of, potential blurs out there that do a lot of anime. So it'd be good to kind of have some conversations more about that. So it's just it's just,
It's
it's
and
not enough days in the hours.
yeah,
I mean hours in the days.
yeah, and speaking of the business side, it's just been a thing since I was a kid. We pick up a lot from Asian cinema, and over time, we figure out a way to make it work
Mm,
for Western sensibilities. But from the kung fu movies to the anime, um, to a lot of like even the Korean dramas, a lot of those hit hard in just
good point.
dramatic ways. It's something that you know people have like learned, Cantonese or learned Korean just to get into this stuff at the base level because of this. So
Really.
yeah, I try to keep my eye on it.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Well, man.
Raph is doing Japanese immersion now. So if you thought I was bad, I keep up with him
Oh, he's going all in, huh?
all in.
I love it, man. Well, hey everyone. Hey, thanks for the time today. Thank you for listening to Show versus Business. Please like, subscribe, and comment at Show Business on Twitter or Instagram. Show versus Business on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to leave a message with us, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you as we talk more and more about pop culture and business. Have a great one, everyone.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture. Please subscribe to this podcast at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please like and subscribe to our Instagram page, Show vs. Business, to get exclusive behind the scenes takes and upcoming episodes. Talk to you next time.
Finish him!